Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Curriculum Committee meeting for May 17th. We did hear from Mr. Gillis and Ms. Eaton, who are not able to attend from the board. We may get Mr. Young and Ms. Schaefer, I'm not quite sure. But we want to respect everyone's time who's here to make presentations, and we're going to move forward with our meeting. Our first agenda item is just to note that the minutes of our last April 19th meeting are available on the website. We have a complete video of our meeting, and we also received an informational summary that we'll accept from our last meeting. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Adams, who will lead us through today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniels. Our first item for discussion with Curriculum Committee tonight are our early college access programs. That's at Woodlawn High School and the P-TECH program at Dundalk High School. And I'd like to call Mr. Douglas Handy, our Director of Career Technology, Education, and Fine Arts, and Ms. Kimberly Ferguson, our Director of Student Support Services.
Good afternoon. So Doug and I are going to give you a little bit of information around the early college access programs, beginning with just a general overview of the early college access programs. The first slide here just gives us some information on all the programs that we have to offer through the partnership with CCBC. As you can see, we have several programs that have been in place for quite a few years, beginning with the parallel enrollment program. Then we kind of did some courageous things and started our BCPS tuition-free program for our students so that they were able to earn up to 4 credits, take 4 classes tuition-free for eligible students. CCBC offers us a 50% tuition discount, and we match that for our students. The outgrowth of that tuition-free program was our on-location courses. So we found that some students were having barriers related to getting to CCBC. So we started offering courses at the high school, the college courses at the high school. So we started with the on-location courses. Doug can talk a little bit about the CTE pathway programs and the diploma to career options. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So CTE pathway programs is listed as an early college option because the majority of our CTE programs articulate into CCBC. So when a student completes their program of study, they will have already earned articulated credits for the community college, giving students a pathway into college directly from high school. And that gives students what we call multiple exit points. A student can choose to exit high school and go to the world of work, or he or she could continue to go on to college to complete a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, and we try to broaden those options. As far as diploma to career, or D2C, that's an effort to have students earn non-credit or go to CCBC for non-credit courses that lead to a certification. So that's a program we're building in conjunction with CCBC, and that allows students who may not have a CTE program at their school to actually still earn those industry credentials to give them, a leg up into the world of work.
Okay. And our dual credit list has grown from 5 to around 55 now, where students can go to CCBC and take a college course, but also receive high school credit for that course. And we have the syllabus for CCBC looked at by our curriculum offices to make sure they meet MSDE standards for the credit. So we have several students that are doing that. Mainly the biggest courses, or the highest number of courses that we use for that, or the names of them are health, English, psychology, philosophy, and we have an extensive list of the dual credits on our college and career readiness website, so you can check that out. So we'll start with the early college program at Woodlawn, and then we'll go into P-TECH. In general, right now, our enrollment for ECAP has grown quite a bit from fall 2015 to fall 2017. We've seen a growth. Every year we see over a 10% growth for both the spring and the fall semester. If you're interested, we have this data by school as well. So just for your information, we were asked to put in some information around, so what's the purpose in offering early college access? So we know that students who participate in early college access are significantly more likely to graduate from high school, to enroll in college, I see a typo there, and also to earn a college degree as compared to other students. So Woodlawn. We started the magnet program this year at Woodlawn. Our first cohort of students started, and these students are going to Woodlawn to earn a high school diploma and an Associate's of Arts degree by the time they graduate from high school. Right now, we have approximately 85 students participating. We started with 85 students participating in the program this year. 4 of the students have transferred, 1 out of state, and the other 4 have transferred to their home school. So we have 81 students in cohort 1 right now in the early college program. These students are they're all enrolled in AVID as a means of support for college and career readiness. They also take AP courses as well as the dual credit courses. This past summer, they participated in a week-long summer program to prepare them for the early college program, and we did that in conjunction with the CCBC staff at Catonsville. This is the current enrollment. 31 students were enrolled in pre-college courses, and 50 students enrolled in college credit courses. So for next school year, we'll have our cohort 2 for the early college program. We had 130 students participated in the magnet assessment, and 99 students have accepted placement in the early college program for next school year. So we'll be rolling over with 81 students as sophomores and 99 students as freshmen at Woodlawn.
All right, thank you. So here on the screen, you'll see the logo for P-TECH, and this is actually a working logo. We're actually changing the logo a little bit, so you'll see an updated logo soon. But P-TECH, also being an early college program, will include BCPS and CCBC in partnership. Stands for Pathways in Technology, Early College, High School. Some additional aspects of P-TECH I'd like to point out. So students in P-TECH will have 4 to 6 years to finish their early college program, and within that 4 to 6 year span, they'll earn a high school diploma. They can earn an Associate's of Applied Science degree in Engineering Technology. They'll work with mentors from KCI, Stanley Black & Decker, and Whiting Turner, and they will complete a 6-week paid internship. And this is really, in a nutshell, what makes P-TECH work. It is a national program. There are a few sites in Maryland. There's actually some funding that came through the General Assembly, and this is our first site here in Baltimore County Public Schools for P-TECH. An early college program in the sense that Woodlawn is, but there are some differences. One being that this program is not a magnet program, so it's really designed for students who are zoned to attend Dundalk High School. So our primary feeders are students who are transitioning from Dundalk Middle School and also Halliburton Middle School. I do want to share some demographic information. This is, I think it's different than maybe what's in the presentation here. All right. Okay, so there are 100 students, good evening, 100 students did apply to attend the program. Initially, we had 30 seats available. We were able to grow that to 45 seats when we picked up Stanley Black & Decker as a partner. So essentially, these 3 business partners are each offering 15 6-week paid internships. So that really dictates the number of students we can enroll. So that's how we got to 45, each partner with the 15 seats. So this is really as of this week. We have 45 students admitted, so all 45 seats are filled. As far as that 45, 62% are boys, 38% are girls. 7 students are receiving ESOL services, 6 students with IEPs or 504 plans. And then as far as racial demographics, 18% are black, 38% white, 33% Hispanic, 4% Asian, 2% American Indian, and 4% multiracial. So a little different than what you have on your screen, because like I said, it's been updated with some information we just really received a couple days ago. Let me see. All right, and I will turn it back to Ms. Ferguson for cost savings.
So one of the slides that we like to share with families is the cost savings for students participating in this program. As you can see, the students who are enrolled in the early college programs at Woodlawn or at P-TECH, the families save $7,500 by participating in this program because BCPS picks up that cost by them participating. And you can see it as compared to the other colleges, local colleges around the state. Big cost savings. So it's a huge selling point when we share this presentation to interested families. One of the things that we did want to share was the College Promise program, and that's been getting a lot of press lately, and we've been working with CCBC to ensure that our families are aware of the College Promise program. This program is not for students who are currently enrolled in BCPS, it's for graduates. So graduates of 2017 and graduates of 2018. So it's basically for eligible students. They, after they apply for financial aid, if there's anything else that they need to pay for, the College Promise program will pay for that. So that is for all Baltimore County students, not just Baltimore County Public School students, but students who live in Baltimore County. So we are working with CCBC to make sure we get the word out for our students who may be interested in this program. And we said that we would share that information with everybody. They really want everyone to know about the College Promise program. And our last bit of information is a video that I hope my technology skills work. It doesn't look like they're working. Can we go back? Can somebody hit it? Oh, it's gone. That's okay. I don't know. I'm not handling it. Doug's not helping. So we just have to click on it inside of there. There we go. Can you hit it? Is that me?
Yes.
It's not mine, that's theirs.
Oh.
It's not me.
I'm gonna tell Mr. McDaniel you went to city. She went to city. Did you get feedback? Oh, should I not be?
No, but my mom said she liked it. So.
That's feedback.
That's good feedback.
That's very valuable feedback.
But it was a talk show, so it was like 13 minutes, but I could only show 3 minutes. So I was like, here's my senior project, and then I pressed play because I only had 3 minutes.
You couldn't use all the what's your series called?
That's fine.
BCS
No.
TV? You couldn't. I wouldn't.
It's not playing? Okay, that's fine. It's on CCBC's website. It's just, it's some students, some of our former students who are talking about, testifying about the early college program and asking us to enroll. So it's just a nice way to end the program. I'm sorry.
We have other videos of students tonight to make sure that we get that sort of boost that we like to have from watching our students and their success. We'll take any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. I'll give my fellow board members a minute to gather themselves but I did have a couple questions, generally about access in general to both the early college access programs and P-TECH. I guess you mentioned Woodlawn specifically. Are there other avenues for county students to participate in these programs other than the two that were mentioned this evening?
Yeah, so at the beginning, the first slide with the, with the chart, that it has all the early college access programs that we offer for any Baltimore County public school student. So the on-location courses, the tuition-free program all of our students are able to participate in those programs. It's not just for Woodlawn or for Dundalk. Okay. So.
And as we proceed through these, you know, some of the statistics in terms of the number of students that actually finish college, get degrees, I think would be very influential to the board, too, because we know generally, I think about the terms that and programs that we have, but how successful we are. There was one slide that showed that the participation, I think, in early, it was increasing each year.
Right.
But I think to, you know, properly understand what's going on, that, you know, some of the other statistics that are coming out of these programs would be, you know, very good for the board to get. You know, I don't know if it's quarterly, I mean, not quarter, but just even annually, just to see how impactful some of these programs are.
Okay, so how those students are faring after they finish in BCPS?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
we can get you that information.
And I believe, Mr. Handy, our workforce development presentation, will we be sharing some of those data about how our CTE graduates then do in college?
Yes, sir. Dr. Adams is correct. That's one of the accountability data points for CTE is what they call placement, and it does show students who are within 2 quarters of graduation or either in college, so not finish a degree necessarily in college, in the workforce, or in the military. So we do track placement for that.
You know, and Mr. Handy and I have had conversations for a number of years, and I just have to say I had a lot of misconceptions, particularly about CTE, and this is a reason for some of the data. Some of the CTE courses, which, you know, traditionally were classified as vocational courses, I had the impression that they would detract from students going on to 4-year colleges. But as we get information and research that comes out of looking at CTE, it's doing the opposite. It's keeping students more engaged in school. It's actually encouraging them to go on to college. But intuitively, that's not the first feeling I had. But when you put statistics and data around it, it will, I think, maybe change the perceptions of a lot of lay people in terms of what these programs are able to do. So,
Yeah, I would say the concept is similar to what you see in college. Just like you choose a major in college, you're choosing an area of focus.
Sure.
And I saw Ms. Schaefer, you know, shaking her head as far as, you know, when you talked about students who were, you know, taken off a college pathway, you know, she's proof positive, right? So it's something that enhances that high school experience and prepares students to go on, and with some credentials in hand, you know.
Right. Thanks. Mr. Young, or
All right. Well, thank you both. Well, actually, Douglas is going to stay. Our next topic is we wanted to provide the board's curriculum committee with some information about our music and dance programs. So Ms. Amy Cohn and Ms. Sonia Sinkowski are coming up to talk about our music and dance programs. Good.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to provide updates on our music and dance education program in Baltimore County Public Schools. We'd like to begin by celebrating the recent news that BCPS has been honored again for the 13th consecutive year as one of the best communities for music education in our nation. So how did we get to this accomplishment? Thank you.
All right.
We strongly believe that our curriculum has led to excellence in teaching and learning, and that our teachers are second to none. But we also know it's the enduring support from the board and executive leadership, and we thank you for that continued support. We can trace our curriculum back to 1942. Back in that time, The curriculum was a bound book, like you see here, and I'll pass it around for those of you that love old books. And nearly half of that curriculum is a bibliography, typed of no less. The grade 7 curriculum specified 11 songs that all students had to learn, and as you might imagine, most were patriotic. And if you're wondering what was the #1 song in 1942, it was White Christmas by Bing Crosby. We now house our curricula in Schoology. Our resources have expanded rapidly over time and are very flexible to meet the wide variety of teacher and student needs. We are extremely excited about all of the collaborative opportunities that Schoology is providing us, and we look forward to the continued evolution of our curriculum.
We're going to take another journey back in time, this time focusing on our dance programs. The first dance program was created in 1976 at Delaney High School. At that time, disco dancing and Soul Train were all the rage. Dance was offered at that time for physical education credit and taught by a physical education teacher. The first certified dance teacher was hired in 1978, not too far after, to develop the program as a fine arts dance course offering. Delaney High School still has a thriving dance program and offers Dance 1 through 4 and Dance Company as fine arts courses. Currently, our dance courses are taught by certified dance teachers and aligned to the Maryland State Standards for Fine Arts Dance. We have elementary special area dance programs taught during the school day, as well as comprehensive and magnet secondary dance programs. Currently, we celebrate having 23 fine arts dance programs and 27 teachers, as you'll see on the slide, spanning K through 12. Our office is now working towards a vision of expanding our fine arts dance program offerings to reach every secondary school in BCPS and align with our strong music and visual arts programs, as well as the district vision of equitable access. We have drafted a 5-year expansion plan and are working closely with executive leadership as well as facilities in the hopes of bringing you that plan in the near future. Also noted on this slide, you will see a creative process image, which is aligned to our standards. Teaching dance is rooted in critical and creative thinking skills. Our teachers see each student as a potential artist and foster the creative potential of each student through their content. Dance and music in 2018 use the processes that are outlined in the creative process to teach the content as well as to teach the critical 21st century skills that are needed to be successful in any career or collegiate setting.
Maryland adopted a modified version of the National Core Arts Standards this fall. There are 4 large artistic processes: creating, performing, presenting, producing as one bucket, responding, and connecting. You may hear our music and dance teachers refer to the artistic processes as the buckets. And the unique aspect of these standards is that they cross music, dance, visual arts, theater, and media arts. We are in the process of updating all of our curricula right now. We have 43 curriculum guides that have moved from N grade to Schoology this spring, and 7 guides ready to be revised from Legacy, think pre-N grade and spiral bound, into Schoology soon. We are very proud of our curricula here in Baltimore County Public Schools. With a clear focus on disciplinary literacy this year, we created and launched new tools intended to build leadership capacity with administrators and teacher leaders around the new music and dance standards and their natural connections to literacy. You have these documents in the folders on the left-hand side pocket. These tools, as well as others for music and dance literacy tools, are also part of our new, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, Disciplinary Literacy Resources booklet. We're very proud of the work that our teachers and our team have done to make these very clear literacy connections.
So what we most often see from music and dance is what you see on this slide, the finished products or the performances. What you may not realize is that each performance is an extension of an identified curricular goal for our students. For music and dance students, performance is one step in their growth process, a process that includes self-awareness, self-discovery, and developing a sense of responsibility to others as a part of an ensemble. And you can see music ensembles and dance ensembles represented. Performing opportunities also provide a connection to the school community and in some cases to a larger community outside of the school. Our music and dance programs therefore provide strong home-to-school connections.
Our curricular extensions are an outgrowth of our curriculum. We have a large number of offerings that span the very wide diversity of music. This encompasses music from jazz to steel pan, marching band to recorder music. These opportunities allow students high-level experiences with professionals that enhance and extend the curriculum through peak performances.
And similar to music, we wanted to point out some of our curricular extensions that happen county-wide for dance and that our office provides and administers. All of our K-12 dance programs annually are celebrated and evaluated at the BCPS Dance Festival. This year was our largest festival to date, with over 300 students that attended, and that means largest in terms of number of schools and number of students. For next school year, we anticipate moving to 2 BCPS Dance Festivals to accommodate more schools and more our dance programs. The Student Choreography Showcase, as you see on this slide, is an opportunity for our secondary programs to showcase students as choreographers, as creators, where they lead the process of producing a dance concert that's county-wide involving multiple schools. The BCPS Men's Ensemble is our all-male dance ensemble. That's another county-wide experience. And this is one of many efforts to target our male students, who are often the minority in our dance programs, and to help to broaden the definition of who dances to include all students and include males. Our all-county honors dance ensemble celebrates dancers who are nominated and selected at the school level to represent the county. Over time, this ensemble has grown in size and currently is comprised of 56 middle and high school dancers. You will find an invitation to the gala performance on May 31st in your folder. Our next slide gives a sense of music and dance by the numbers. We are very proud of the fact that a large majority of students in our district are enrolled in a music course. And on the dance side, we are encouraged by the number that are growing. In fact, for this year, we added 5 new dance programs, and we expect to add an additional 5 in the coming year, bringing our reach up to 28 schools. And we recognize that this is exponential growth in that program in a short amount of time. We also wanted to point out some of the community partners that help to enhance our curriculum and help to provide opportunities for our students to bridge from their school programs into the community. This is one way that we support career pathways in the arts and professional experiences in the arts. And as an office, we are certainly continuing to expand our reach and look for ways to enhance our programs through valuable and reciprocal partnerships.
Real-world connections. The work of our office in this area has been to create equity and access to opportunities for college and career readiness in music and dance. Specific work of the office has been to include creating opportunity pathways from K-12 in music and dance, feeder system analysis, do all children have the same opportunities regardless of which zip code they live in, and expanding access to dance programs for all secondary schools. Through this push for equitable access to high-quality curriculum, instruction, and curricular extensions, we've also sought to mirror the real-world career paths that exist in music and dance fields. These pathways examples are not limited to educator, composer, performer, conductor, arranger, sound engineer, producer, video game sound designer, radio publishing house recording company, a choreographer, a stage manager, and a director. One example of this connectivity was our first annual composition project, which was open to all music students in grades kindergarten through 12. The results were amazing. Some examples of the students' work are on this slide. Please note the diversity of methods which students employed to write their pieces. We're excited to highlight the accomplishments of Adrian Sims, a senior at Catonsville High School, who was the 2017 Maryland Music Educators Association Young Composers Contest winner with his piece Contraption. This composition was just published by FJH Music Company and is for sale to the public for $90. Let's take a listen. We're also thrilled to celebrate another of Adrian's compositions, Niagara Falls, which was recognized for excellence with the 2018 inaugural BCPS Composition Project. In conjunction with students writing their musical scores, they wrote composer statements about their pieces. We have Adrian's composer statement on the yellow sheet on the left side of your folder. I encourage you to read the work at a later time and to scan the QR code on the back so that you can listen to Niagara Falls in its entirety. It's extremely impressive. But if you'd like the opportunity to hear it performed live, this Sunday you can join us for the world premiere of Niagara Falls, being performed by our Baltimore Music Educators Wind Symphony, where our BCPS music teachers, CTE staff, not Doug, but other staff, not yet, our community superintendent, Dr. Penelope Martin-Knox, and our students will all perform his piece under his leadership as the conductor. It is going to be quite an afternoon, and I hope you can join us.
Where will this happen?
This will happen at Owings Mills High School at 4 p.m., and there's a flyer in your folder. We'd love for you to join us. We're excited to share that Adrian is attending the University of Maryland in the fall. In addition to continuing to compose, he wants to become a music teacher, and we would love to have him on Team BCPS. So expanding technology. Where are we going? Increased access and use of technology has opened up incredible opportunities for individual and collaborative learning. We're working towards a K-5 digital textbook adoption, and we hope to have more information to share with you soon. We are expanding our music technology course at the high school level, not only at George Washington Carver Center, but also our comprehensive high schools. In fact, we are in the process of equipping Randallstown High School to offer music and audio technology for 2018 and 2019. We have seen student interest grow rapidly around music technology, and we're working hard to keep up with many changes in software and hardware. Underlying all of the use of technology is our desire to actively engage students in the arts so that when they graduate, they are consumers, participants, audience members, leaders, and advocates.
As we mentioned, we've been working hard to expand opportunities for students to take dance as a fine arts course and to support principals that absolutely see the benefits of a dance program for their students. So pictured, you will see the before and after for a new dance classroom at Milford Mill Academy, which aligned to a new dance magnet program that opened in September of 2017. On the right, you will see a phase 1 picture of Pikesville Middle School dance classroom, a program that also began in September of 2017. We're excited to see the transformation continue this summer in order to add dance flooring, storage, changing rooms, and more at Pikesville Middle. It is important that all of our dance programs have dedicated fine arts dance classrooms that meet our BCPS specifications for dance. Additionally, for dance, we will be piloting a new high school course entitled Dance for Athletes, and we will be writing a new middle school course entitled Conceptualizing Choreography. Both new courses speak to creating more pathways for students through dance and more opportunities for students to experience dance as a career. We will leave you with an excerpt of a student work from Newtown High School entitled We Are from the BCPS Dance Festival. Student choreographer London Smith demonstrates a strong use of personal voice, original thought, and artistry that we would hope to foster in all of our students. Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, board members? Yeah, it does.
We hope to be, yes.
Yeah, I did have a couple questions. I guess I'll start with one. We asked the same question last month. I think we recognize the need for students to be exposed to music and dance just to become more full in their life experiences and grow. But then there are going to be some students that look to dance or music as a career, or, you know, they want to really go. Can you talk a little bit about the pathway that someone who wants to be a professional musician that comes out of BCPS, what experiences they would have, and how, you know, what, you know, do they go to a particular high school? Would they go to like a Patapsco or Milford? Just could you talk a little bit about where these students come from?
Absolutely. So we have a wealth of programs and enrichment or extension opportunities that all of our students are encouraged to take advantage of, but certainly a student who is showing great potential and desire to dig in deeper and have more extensive experiences would be encouraged to be in our honors program, to perform in solo and ensemble, to audition for All-State, so there are many things outside of the regular school day, but all of our programs have a comprehensive, high-quality music program. So certainly if they wanted more time and content, they may choose to specialize by going to one of our magnets, Milford Mill Academy, Patapsco, or to Carver for music, as well as for dance. And I certainly will let Sonia speak to that. But our teachers are always pushing students, and I think that's why you see representation at state and national. Okay. We're getting ready to do a press release on some national news for a couple of our students as well, because our teachers value those extensions and those career pathways. We have strong relationships with the colleges in Maryland, as well as others as well, that we push students towards.
Okay. I noticed that composer went to Catonsville. I don't think that's a school that I would have really predicted, but could a student like that come through any of our high schools, would
Absolutely.
You say? Really?
And we're hoping to have more of them. That's why we're really pushing creativity with our new standards and opening up those opportunities to K-12. That's an excellent question.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I guess the second question, I guess, is I remember a few years ago, this goes back to our magnet programs. We used to have auditions or performing art, and I think we went to more, if I understand it correctly, a random or, you know, process of getting in. And there was a lot of pushback in the beginning. Can you update us on kind of that change and, you know, what you feel the impact of going to a random rather than having an audition to get into some of these middle school programs or?
Well, I think for our middle school programs, it's wonderful to open up that opportunity and the access for all students, because we know that not all students in all zip codes have the same opportunity. So I think that works very well. For our middle schools, we're getting a lot of positive feedback. As with any change, there are going to be some that are reluctant at first, but we do believe it is the right decision for students. So I certainly, Ms. Zinkowski, you can chime in for dance as well. And we know we still have the same process in place for high schools. We are centralizing that more, making it more consistent across sites, so we're very encouraged by the work that we did this year.
Great.
Yeah, I think with any change, you just worry that you might miss a student who really has a passion for the content in favor of opening up seats for someone else, which is the kind of anecdotal feedback that we look for. But by and large, opening it up has really helped, I think, more students. So I think that outweighs maybe missing a few that maybe really wanted to be in a dance program. And coupled with an expansion program in dance, really then we can speak to students having opportunities regardless of what building or where they live. So that would help as well.
It certainly is tremendously exciting to see the extraordinary talent that exists both artistically that we talked about last month and then with dance and music. And, you know, we just want to hope as a system that we're kind of pushing these kids or allowing them to show off their talent.
And what we like to say too is it's talent, but some of those students may come to a music or dance program with no experience. And those are the students that, really excite us, is that what the system has provided them is what you see on stage. Yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. Thank you. I think that's it. That's it from us.
Again.
Okay.
Thank you all. That's great. Our next item is an ESOL update. I'm calling up Ms. Shea and Dr. Sullivan.
Good evening, or after, I guess it's still afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Ms. Hernandez, our director, was not able to be with us tonight, so I'm going to fill in. We are here today to bring you some updates around our ESOL program for our English language learners. To do that, we decided to try to organize it around 3 main outcomes, but then we also decided to use some essential questions to help frame our conversation. The first is that we really wanted to help the curriculum committee and the board at large, and certainly the thousands of viewers at home, become more familiar with our population growth and changes that are happening within BCPS. We talk a lot about that in different venues, certainly as part of our leadership development and working with teachers, but we felt it was really important that you, as members of the board, understand those changes as well. And then to that end, we're going to talk a lot about the curricular and instructional goals of how we organize our ESOL program to meet those needs. And then the last bullet we won't spend as much time on, but you will hear us talk about some of how are we supporting the adults. So how are we supporting teachers with this changing population? And so our 3 main questions we're going to talk about is who are our English learners? What are their challenges or their needs? And then how do we support them? And so that's going to kind of guide our conversation. So the first graph that you have in front of you just visually shows the dramatic incline and the rapid growth that we're seeing with our population of English learners over a pretty short amount of time. But what's even more interesting is this data comes from our dashboard. So the folks in DRAA have really helped us with the data. This shows the enrollment count as of October 31st, because that's the state official cutoff for how we measure enrollment. But to date, because our data dashboards are live, if you will, we actually currently have 7,348 English learners. So you can see we have grown by 500 just since October 31st. And that's really critical to understand, because this is a population, while our Department of Research, Assessment, and Accountability are really phenomenal at their predictions, this is a population that is next to impossible to predict because of so many of the other challenges that we'll talk about later. But you can see there too, the photographs are English learners are pictured there. And in particular, wanted to showcase the picture on the bottom was taken at our Welcome Center. And so you can see these are our students just as they are. We are truly welcoming them into BCPS. And you can see there they are clutching their backpacks. We are now in a position at that Welcome Center to provide students who are new to our country and new to our school system with the necessary supplies. And you can see they're hugging them as if we just gave them the coolest new toy on the market. And so to that end, we wanted to further talk about some of the data we use on our dashboard to really define English learners. One of the most important, I would say, talking points that we continue to describe is that we use that large umbrella English learners, but we're really talking about a very varied population, even within that one distinction. And so to start with, we already talked about our numbers, that was the count as of October 31st, and we are now with 7,348, but they represent 121 different countries. And I think there's only a total of how many recognized countries?
195.
So we are close to meeting all of the countries that are even recognized in the world. And then in terms of the number of home languages, so when we talk about even things like translating documents or interpreting services, or even materials in the classroom, we currently service students who speak 94 different languages, and we actually have conversations about 96 because of a couple of dialects. But you can see that in and of itself presents enormous challenges, because we are not talking about just servicing one type of English learner when you reflect all the different countries that they come from and all the different languages that they speak. But we do have data on what those languages are, so you can see that we are still seeing this chart demonstrates the top 10 languages that are spoken. So you can see Spanish is still far and away the primary language spoken by our English learners. And then 2 through 5 fluctuate a little bit depending on that enrollment status. We do see an increase. We've seen an increase with Burmese and Arabic, and then Urdu and Yoruba compete for the last couple of slots there, and that changes as we enroll new families as well. But so while we do have 94 languages spoken, Spanish is still the primary language. And so many of our efforts around bilingual materials and support start with Spanish. On the right, this additional data, when we're talking about who are our English learners, this is also, I think, a common misconception. When we talk about where are the native countries, where are our English learners coming from, it may surprise you to see the one at the very top, right? And so that isn't what we sometimes think about when we think about English learners. We think about students who have immigrated here from another country, but many of our, in fact, the majority of our English learners beginning, especially in the early childhood grades, are from the United States. So they are citizens of the United States, but they are living in a family in which the primary or dominant language spoken is not English. And so much of their auditory processing or their preschool language, if you will, is not in English. And so when they come to us in those early grades, they are designated as English learners. And so that's just telling you who our English learners are from a very concrete perspective in terms of native countries or languages spoken. But they also have additional designations about how they come to us. And so I'm going to let Dr. Sullivan talk a little bit about some of those distinctions, some of which overlap some of the data we share, but some of which really tell a different story. You know, our superintendent always talks about every student has a story, and that is probably more true than with our English learners.
So, thank you. So, to begin with, Megan already touched on American-born students, but that is a national trend that the majority of English learners are native-born Americans who are coming from homes where they speak another language, and so then when we assess them, they do need that language support. The other population that is pretty special to Baltimore County is the refugee population. We have a large organization called the International Rescue Committee that is based out of Baltimore City. And so a lot of the refugees who are resettled into this area are settled into Baltimore City and Baltimore County. We split them about 50-50. And so last year we had quite an increase in Syrian refugees. We've also had an increase in Congolese refugees, and they tend to have very large families, so we would be enrolling families of 4 or 5 at a time. The next group are what we call asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are very much like refugees. They're coming to this country for the same reasons, to escape poverty or war. But because they have come directly to the United States and haven't stopped at a refugee camp, their designation is different than a refugee. And so once they get here, they can seek asylum. With that, we also have, in the past 3 years, we've seen an increase in students with limited formal schooling or interrupted education. That very much aligns to our refugees and our asylum seekers. So as we are getting more and more students from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, we've seen an increase. And again, that's a nationwide trend. Starting in 2015, the numbers really accelerated, where we were getting not just students with limited formal schooling, but also unaccompanied youth coming on their own who had experienced a lot of trauma, and because of that trauma have not necessarily had continuous schooling. Another interesting thing for Baltimore County is our medical immigrants. So because of our location so close to University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins hospitals, we get a lot of immigrants who are coming here for medical treatment. So it might be the parents who are seeking treatment that they can't get in their own country, and so their country sends them here and pays for their medical treatments here, and sometimes for the students as well. And they tend to be short-term, a year or 2, and then they'll go home. And then last, we don't want to leave out that we have lots of students who are coming to Baltimore County with really strong academic backgrounds, and so their language skills are already very strong in their first language, and so our goal then is how can we tap into both their native language and their background that are already bringing with them to support their education here.
And so part of, as we segue into the next part, already what we've tried to illustrate is that each of these different populations then have different instructional needs. And so how we think about those challenges has to inform some of the decisions we make both as a curricular office, but also in some of the professional development. So as Dr. Sullivan was talking, I'm sure you could hear that beyond just the literacy needs, if you think of the superintendent's other priority in terms of climate, there are a lot of climate needs that would go along with each of these populations that based on the social and emotional needs that would come with some of the challenges that Dr. Sullivan just described.
So to speak a little bit further about the challenges, the first challenge on the screen, the language and cultural barriers, we could say that this is true across all of our English learners. The majority of their time, even if their family has been here for some time, they may not speak the language or the language well, and they may also not be as familiar with American culture and norms. And so because of that, in particular the language barriers, it's sometimes difficult for them to lack resources, access resources because they're just not aware of what resources are available to them. The second is the lack of literacy in first language. Our secondary schools, when we have students who are coming in who don't have that strong academic background, who have had gaps and don't have literacy in their first language, it becomes increasingly difficult to move them and forward both within the English curriculum, the ESOL curriculum, as well as the content curriculum. But I would also one thing that gets overlooked is that the students who are coming to us as kindergartners, pre-K, kindergarten, they haven't been taught often their language in their literacy in their first language. And that can be a barrier too to learning literacy in their second language. And so we want to make sure that we recognize that it can be challenging because we're asking them to literacy in a language where they haven't necessarily yet developed the oral language development. Another increasing but still small population is the overage and undercredited. So as students come in who are older, they still have a right to come to school, but they might be coming in and they only have 4 years to graduate, but they are really undercredited. And so what we have to do to try to get them there, as well as teaching them English at the same time, can be very challenging for the schools. Overcoming trauma, Megan spoke about the socio-emotional needs. This can't be overlooked. When students are coming to our schools who have just escaped horrible violence, really the most important thing is to develop that relationship both with the family and the students first so that they are open to learning. If they're scared, they're not going to learn. And then another priority for me and our office is making sure that we are able to have our English learners access more advanced programming when that is what their academic needs are. When they are coming in highly educated with great language background, what can we do to ensure that they're being offered the same kind of programs as any other student in the system?
And so earlier when you heard Mr. Handy talk about the P-TECH program at Dundalk, because Dundalk is one of our ESOL centers at the high school level, it was really critical to us that students had access to that programming. And so to that end, the ESOL office partnered with the CTE office to provide materials that had been translated to have interpreters at some of the parent-family nights so that we could really help to support that population. So we were very excited. Tonight he said 7, so I think we lost one, but to have 8 out of the original 30, and then now that we've increased to 45, it's a good percentage of students that of English learners. And so we continue to offer professional learning for teachers, but also collaborate the ESOL office between all the offices and academics. So how can we support the advanced academics office? There's no reason to think that our English learners don't have the same capabilities, but we have to ensure that the families and our teachers have an understanding of what that might look like in an English learner, because it may not show up in the same way as a student who has that fluency. Some of the other challenges that Erin talked about also can show up in some of our dropout rates. So when we talk about that as a challenge, we want to unpack what's behind that challenge, because it can come across just as a number, but we have to unpack all of the reasons and the contributing factors that Dr. Sullivan just described are certainly challenges because we're racing against the clock in some cases. And many of these students help support their families financially, and so when school becomes such a challenge, it sometimes is a more viable option to work. And so we are trying to support them in a multitude of ways so that we can make school the more attractive option for that student.
So now we're looking at our instructional approach. So you'll see it changes from elementary, middle, and high schools. At the elementary school, and first you can note our current ratios. So our ratios right now at the elementary level are 1 to 65. We're hoping to get that down to 1 to 55 based on our proposed budget. But at the elementary school, we do a cluster staffing model where we give multiple teachers a set of schools that they work with. And the change really when we moved to the cluster model was not looking just at numbers, but looking at need. And so we, when we're doing scheduling, we make sure that we are looking at the kids who are in 3rd or 4th and 5th grade who are level 1s and 2s, and are they getting more service or the appropriate service for that child, whereas a kindergarten student or a first grader might not need quite as much service as the child who's just recently arrived in 3rd or 4th or 5th grade. So we also provide 2 kinds of services. One is direct instruction from an ESOL teacher, so that's when we are pulling them out, and we have our own ESOL curriculum, which is an English language development curriculum. And then this is essential for level 1s and 2s who would have much more difficulty accessing the regular curriculum if we don't first help teach them English. And then when we move on to level 3s and 4s, often the ESOL teacher can provide the support within the classroom by modifying some instruction and giving them scaffolds so that they can access the regular curriculum. At the middle school level, you can see the ratios there. We're still working with a center model, and so those are the 4 schools where we have centers currently: Dundalk, Dumbarton, Sudbrook, and Lansdowne. And at the middle school level, we have ESOL courses, and so we tend to schedule the students by grade level and proficiency. So if you're a 6th grader, level 1, you'd be in a course with other 6th graders who are level 1s. And then if you're an 8th grader, level 3. So it's both across grades and proficiency levels. And then at the high school level, we are able to provide more robust courses. So the center, again, it's still the center model. However, Woodlawn actually is just a neighborhood school. So the centers are Dundalk, Parkville, Lansdowne, and Owings Mills. Woodlawn only pulls from its actual neighborhoods. But we're all, at those schools, we're able to provide both ESOL courses, so courses that are specific to English language development. But we're also able to provide some sheltered instruction courses for those students who are coming in with more gaps. So for example, we've been working collaboratively with the math office to create an ESOL math course so that students who don't have those foundational skills can build the foundational skills while developing language at the same time. We've also created a social study, a course that helps prepare the students called American Culture that gives them some prerequisite knowledge that the other students may have already learned through elementary and middle school, but our students don't have.
And so I just want to point out that the ratios, the 2 different ratios, one is what we currently have, and then the other is based on the budget being approved. It's still obviously not ideal when you look at those numbers. And so a lot of the professional learning that the ESOL office has been doing for teachers is also around supporting content teachers. Because they need to be able to have strategies for how to scaffold instruction for English learners across their day and in every subject. And so just recently at the last Principal Leadership Development meeting, we've been talking at this committee about our leadership training around literacy. And so at our last meeting, the topic for all the principals, elementary, middle, and high school, was specifically about supporting the literacy needs of our English learners in every subject, every day. And so some of the professional learning is targeted specifically for ESOL teachers, but a lot of it is about partnering with content teachers at elementary, middle, and high school and also supporting the social emotional learning needs of our English learners so that we can hopefully support that success. Because when you look at the staffing ratios, clearly it's not enough, but as our population, every time we think we might be getting ahead of it, as the population is accelerating that growth, this isn't necessarily something we can staff our way out of. It has to be sort of an all hands on support all the students all the time.
So when we're looking at the curricular approach, there are 4 components to our curriculum. So first, we look at WIDA standards. And WIDA standards go across the language of social studies, science, math, and English language arts, as well as instructional language. So when we're developing our curriculum, we are doing a cross-curricular. So we use a project-based model so that we can develop projects that aren't just ELA or aren't just math, but incorporate all of the languages. So again, the language of science, math, social studies, and English language arts are all incorporated into every unit that we do. Some units are more focused on math and science, and some are more focused on social studies, but we really work for a cross-disciplinary approach. By doing that, we've been able to do a lot of collaboration with other offices. So not only collaboration in terms of creating new courses, but we've also done collaboration in terms of projects. So we worked with the science office to create an environmental unit that then culminates into the students going canoeing, which is kind of fun. And so that's a really big approach. We want to make sure that we're speaking the same language. So when we're teaching the language of science, math, and social studies and English language arts, we're saying the same things that they're going to hear in the science, math, social studies, and language arts class. So that's really important that we work together. And then the other really important part for any English language development course is that we're including all 4 language domains. So we're incorporating reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And they all have to go hand in hand because in order to develop a second language, we really need to focus on speaking and listening initially, but at the same time working reading and writing because we know that they are seeing material in all forms, and so we have to work quickly to help them so that they can access the content. So here are some other ways that we're supporting them. The International Parent Leadership Academy is an academy that we started last year. We're in the 2nd session. Last year we had 10 parents. This year we have another 10. And so we look for leaders in the community, but who may not know much about the system yet. And our goal really is to train them what is in the system. And so we have people from the Equity Office, from the ELA Office, from the Magnet Office, from the Gifted Office come in so we can explain to them, these are what your options are. These are your choices. And so that's been really successful, and the parents really seem to like it. So the next thing is Soccer Without Borders. Soccer Without Borders is an organization. It's an international organization, but there's a local chapter in Baltimore who had previously been working with Baltimore City schools and PG County schools. And so we've brought them in to work in Baltimore County. And they really address the socio-emotional needs of immigrants and newcomers and refugees. Their organization is focused on immigrant and refugee populations. So they do a lot of interesting things along with playing soccer, like creating circles on the field, working through some of the language development issues. And so we've started to partner with them. We also partnered with the YMCA to start a community school at Owings Mills High School, which has done a lot of great things already to reach out to our community and provide them some of the services that they need, both in terms of socio-emotional, but also just actual things that they need, like food and clothing. We're working very collaboratively with Title I office and to extend our summer programming offerings. So in the elementary level, we are in our schools with the largest populations, we're able to offer an additional section of the ELO, but that's specific to English learners and targeting the level 1 and level 2 students that would have a difficult time accessing the regular ELO curriculum. And an ESOL teacher will teach that, and we did this last year, but we've expanded the number of schools this year. We're able to offer that too. EYLP is the same thing. We partner both with the EYLP program and Title I to develop additional sections for ESOL students who are level 1s and level 2. And then at the high school level, we're able this year to offer 2 ESOL programs at Owings Mills and Parkville that will address both content needs and English language development needs, as well as the socio-emotional piece by having that partnership with Soccer Without Borders and the arts program. Megan spoke about the partnership with PTAC that we're really excited about. I would say that the other important thing, not only were we able to help the communication process and get more people to apply by actually doing a session just for English language families. But I think the really important thing for P-TECH is our ongoing collaboration. So now that the kids are in the program, how are we supporting them so they will be successful? And then another success has been the increased magnet participation. This year we had a 97% increase in applications. And we've done that a number of ways, but really reaching out to the community and also helping them through that application process.
So that's it. That's thank you, and close to the 94 languages that we support in BCPS. And so if you have any questions for us, we appreciate you giving us the time this evening so that we can share everything that we're working on with ESOL.
Any questions? Mr. Young, go ahead.
So you mentioned earlier that, like with your, I think you said pre-K, kindergarten children, it's difficult to teach them because they don't have the literacy yet in their first language. But you also mentioned with, say, the high schoolers, that they may be under credit. So where is that area where we find the greatest success? Is it the when we get them like in the third grade? Or is it just really depends upon the child, and we can't quantify it?
So nationally, the trend is that at the middle school level when they come in, because they come in with a strong academic background and a language background, and we have seen some of that, and so then they have enough time to learn language and graduate on time and with their class. So, and we do see some of that trend in Baltimore County as well, that's a good grade level. It's not that at the earlier grade levels they can't learn, they will learn it, but sometimes there's a misconception that when they come in as 4 or 5-year-olds, oh, this is going to be so easy. They're just going to learn it. And orally, they do pick it up very quickly. They'll sound like native speakers, but then we sometimes are confused why they're struggling with the literacy. And so it's important for us to work collaboratively with the ELA office and with the teachers to understand that sometimes that struggle is that they don't have that language yet orally, and so that's why they're struggling with the writing. But we will see success with them. They have time, but sometimes that can be a struggle sometimes for the younger kids.
Okay, thank you.
This is all a little bit intimidating to me to hear this. But I just wanted to ask, in these 94 languages that are floating, how many, in terms of instruction, how many teachers do we have that can communicate to, how many of these languages do we have covered, I guess?
Probably not that many. In terms of my teachers, we have, to my knowledge, we have Arabic speakers, Spanish speakers, Urdu speakers, which are in our top 5, so that's good. Okay. We don't have any Burmese speakers, and even in part of our our family school liaisons, we don't represent the top 5 languages at this time. Burmese, we've never had, and that's been a challenge. Burmese is just a challenge. There are many different dialects, and not necessarily people who have strong academic backgrounds with which will want to come and become a teacher, or we even struggled sometimes to get interpreters for that language. But Arabic is the growing population, and we recently hired a paraprofessional at Dundalk High School who is Arabic speaking. And so that's one of the first people on my staff that's directly kind of focusing on supporting through the language our high school students.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. So they're students of those 7,000, I think we have the Spanish ones, we can communicate, but there are students, quite a few out there that don't speak English, and we don't speak their language at all, and we're just trying to connect.
Yeah, so in a typical ESOL classroom in Baltimore County and across the state, and we're very lucky in this way, the population is very dynamic and also very diverse. Okay. So if we were in California or Texas, you would have predominantly Spanish speaking. Here we don't, and so as a teacher, I would have 10, 11 different languages in my classroom. And so the way we teach is through English. Okay. obviously for those kids who come in with no English, you know, there's got to be a lot of smiling and being kind to them initially, just so that they feel safe and comfortable. But, you know, we teach them through visuals. We teach them through each other because when they speak different languages, they have different assets that they bring to the table together. And so that's how we teach them.
Yeah. Can you educate us, I guess? I'm sure these 7,000 students aren't equally distributed around Baltimore County. I had heard at one time the Burmese population is quite strong in southwest.
Correct, in the Halthorpe area.
Are there any other concentrations of?
So sometimes it's related to the International Rescue Committee and where they can find housing for people. And so Allen Drive area in Cadensville is where a lot of the Burmese refugees first came. And so they first came there and they were kind of around that area.
Okay.
The Syrian population came into the Dundalk area last year and the Congolese. And so that really kind of exploded in that area. Right now, we're seeing a strong increase in Nigerian immigrants in the northwest area.
Okay.
And so immigrants often come and then they find other people who speak the same language and then they go to the same area. So you will see pockets of people from the same cultures and languages living near each other.
Okay. And you had an interesting bullet about strong students that come here. How do we assess, you know, some students that's very strong, but in a language that we might not be familiar?
So I'm really excited that we are going to have a nonverbal assessment that was approved recently. And so that can really go a long way, both to assess students who are at higher performing, but also students who might be struggling. And it will be a valid assessment that we can use without concern to language. So that will be one really great way. The other way that is through our ESOL teachers who are experienced with what English language development looks like. And so if we see students who are either struggling or really accelerating, then we can have an idea that this child is on a different path. And then we really need to rely on parents, because parents know what we don't know, and especially for this population, we can say, are you seeing the same things in the first language as we're seeing in the second language? And so that can be really helpful.
Okay. And then my last question, over the last couple years, we've heard things from the Chinese community about their New Year celebration and things like that. But on the quick flip up there, I didn't see, or I didn't recognize any Asian English,
population. I think it's around 7 right now. It has dropped. So it's I think it's maybe the 7th or 8th on the chart. It's been dropping steadily, much to some of I have one of my family school liaisons is Chinese, and I keep saying it's dropping. Oh, it's out.
Yeah, it's not in the top 10.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah, so when I arrived 2.5 years ago, it was 4th. So the population, I will say the fastest growing population right now is the Yoruba population, because that's the Nigerian. Oh, okay, it is Chinese on the languages. Yeah.
Not the home
but
countries.
Not the countries.
Right. And the other thing is some of those students that the families are talking about are not designated as English learners, but they are still participating in that cultural tradition.
Very interesting. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Thank you both. All right, moving right along, we will have Mr. Imbriali, Mrs. Schubert, and Mr. Stoll come and talk about our IB programming.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We are here to bring you acronyms. Tonight, we will discuss PYP, MYP, DP, CP as it relates to IB. To unpack all that, we are seeking to expand our international baccalaureate programs here in Baltimore County. We currently have a diploma program at Kenwood High School, but we are looking to expand that program, and we're excited about the opportunities through the IB program in early years, middle years, and at the high school. And so we are here to get your approval to move forward with this curriculum opportunity as it relates to expanding access through our federal magnet grant that we received. And so I'm going to turn it now over to Ms. Schubert, who will explain what exactly is our International Baccalaureate program.
So my hope is by this end of this evening, all of those alphabet letters will make some sense to you, and I'll explain what all of that means. So International Baccalaureate, or IB, is a framework that wraps around our BCPS curriculum and focuses on teaching students to think critically and independently and how to inquire with care and logic. I think we can agree that's something we would want all of our students to be able to do. Part of IB is to define a learner profile, and these are the attributes that we wish an IB successful learner will have in our BCPS IB programs. And all of our schools embrace these 10 attributes that are part of that IB profile. They include inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk takers, balanced, and reflective. Again, I think aspects we would want all 113,000 of our students to have. IB values and offers opportunities for students to become active and caring members of local, national, and global communities. Teaching and learning in our IB program prepares students to gauge in a global challenge through inquiring, through action, and through reflection. And IB education creates learning communities in which students can increase their understanding of language and culture, and which will help them become more globally engaged. So to understand IB a little bit more, there are components at multiple levels. And again, here are all of our letters and our acronyms to talk about. PYP, or the primary year program, focuses on our pre-K through 5, our earliest learners. And PYP prepares our students to become active, caring, lifelong learners who demonstrate respect for themselves and others. PYP programs focus on, again, our BCPS curriculum, but through a transdisciplinary approach with an emphasis on global activities. PYP students will think about who we are, where we are in place and time, how we express ourselves, how the world works, how we organize ourselves, and how we share the planet. Again, all around our BCPS existing curriculum.
It fits nicely with the presentation we had just before this, actually.
Our MYP, or middle years program, actually encompasses grades 6 through 10, so a little bit different than probably what you thought. And this provides a framework that encourages students to make practical connections between their studies and the real world. The middle years program is designed to ensure students of all interests and academic abilities can benefit from participation. So MYP exists in our middle schools and then in the first 2 years of a student's high school experience. And then finally, our diploma program, grades 11 and 12, aims to develop students who have an excellent breadth and depth of knowledge and students who flourish physically, intellectually, emotionally, and physically. Our DP students have an opportunity to graduate with an IB diploma through taking IB courses, which are similar, if your framework is AP, similar to our AP courses, but with IB, students actually graduate with an International Baccalaureate diploma and the goal of college readiness. The IB diploma, as our superintendent would say, is the gift with purchase for our students. And then the CP program, or the career-related programs, is a program in grades 11 and 12 that's a framework of international education addressing the needs of students engaged in career-related programs, or our CTE programs. So I wanted to talk a little bit about BCPS IB programs and where those exist. You can see a list of our primary years programs, our middle years programs, our DP and CP programs that are listed. This past year, with the support of executive leadership in BCPS and the Board of Education, BCPS successfully applied for and was awarded a Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant, a $15 million grant. Part of those funds are supporting the establishment, which is an expansion of our programs at Woodmore Elementary, Middle River Middle School, Windsor Mill Middle, and Newtown High School. Our goal with IB programming is to offer IB programming throughout Baltimore County so that regardless of where a student resides, he or she would have access to IB and a K-12 pathway. And we like to say that this pathway has multiple on-ramps and off-ramps, meaning that a student could engage in IB kindergarten through 12th grade, or a student could engage in multiple times within his or her education. But we are looking to expand these programs to ensure that we have more access for our students. So then we also wanted to talk to you about this expansion to be in alignment with BCPS policy and Rule 6002. We looked at the international PYP, MYP, DP, and CP programs against the framework established in board policy and Rule 6002. There are 10 criteria that are identified in the identification of instructional materials as outlined in the rule. So this spring, we gathered stakeholders, including parents, including administrators, teachers, some central office representatives, to look at the 4 programs that I just described to you. I'm thrilled to share with you that when those 4 programs were evaluated using the 10 criteria identified in 6002, 100% of our stakeholders agreed that we are in alignment with what is identified in that rule. Also, I wanted to let you know that at the next board meeting, we will have a concurrent contract moving forward with International Baccalaureate, which is based locally out of Bethesda, Maryland. That contract will support our work in the expansion of IB programs. So that contract will support professional development, which is essential for our teachers working the IB program, professional development for our teachers, professional development for our administrators. It will also support the application fees as well as the fees associated with an IB certification, and that's a 3-year process for our schools, as well as that request would also support the fees associated with our high school students taking those IB exams.
And when that contract comes forward, there's both grant funding and there's operating funding. So the plan, the way the program currently works is through our magnet funding, which comes out of our operating budget. That's how Kenwood High School supports their IB programs. And so as we expand our IB in our expansion schools, that money is coming through the magnet grant, but that grant eventually does end. And so we want to make sure that we're transitioning our programs to be able to support it, have it supported through operating funds.
And those grant funds support the 4 schools that I identified as grant schools. So at this point, I hope I have solved the ABCs of IB for you. And do you have any questions?
Well, Ms. Schaefer.
So you pay for IB students to take the tests, like when they're in high school?
So we do currently. We have students who are in the program at Kenwood High School. We also have some students who are in Milford Mill Academy who that program is being phased out because we're moving to a new program at Newtown High School. We currently pay for the students to take the exams, and that is as a means to encourage more students to participate in that program and to go through that process of taking those exams.
That's nice.
I don't know if I improperly always associated IB programs with advanced academics. Is that a proper association or not? You mentioned the IB exam at the same time as AP preparation and so. How does it fall within advanced academics? I guess I would ask the question.
So I can speak just from the perspective of a former high school principal.
Okay.
You have students who take advanced placement courses throughout their high school careers who may or may not be identified as advanced academic students. So the same could apply to students who are in an international baccalaureate program. And that's especially true in the primary years programs when we're not even identifying those students at that point. So it's really a program that could be geared towards any student who has the drive and the determination to go through that process. That diploma program is very intense, and it is highly demanding. So there is some sort of combination of academic ability along with drive.
Okay. All right.
We also offer, with the DP program, To graduate with an IB diploma, as Mr. Imbrielli mentioned, is a very rigorous process, and there are a set of defined criteria that students would need to meet to graduate with that diploma. Our students at Newtown High School and Kenwood High School do have the option to take IB courses, and they might not actually graduate with that IB diploma. That's always our end goal, but the reality is some of our students might engage in IB courses, just like some of our students take a different number of AP courses within their high school experience. And so we want to provide kind of those options for our students as well.
I think when we talk about the IB program, we're changing a mindset here because we're not just talking about high school programs. We're talking about elementary programs, middle school programs as well. And at the elementary and the middle school and into grade 10 for the high school, every student that's in the school participates in that program. So it's not geared just to certain students tracked into certain academic programs. It's really truly designed to meet the needs of all students.
Well, it certainly does sound attractive to increase the access across the county for more students to expand their knowledge and eventually, as you said, go after some of these more rigorous diploma options. So that's a positive. Are you asking this curriculum committee to support the expansion at this time, or should we vote on something tonight? Is that part of what we're to do?
We would love that.
Okay, okay, good. All right, Mr. Young, did you have any questions around this particular presentation?
Mr. Imbrielli, you mentioned that at the primary years you don't identify the students. Oh, go ahead.
Correct. So I'm just making the connection with a combination of what Brian said and then also how our advanced academic works in the elementary schools. So the IB program starts as early as kindergarten, and so we're not identifying gifted students at that time in our elementary schools, and it's whole school at that point as well. So really, from what Mr. McDaniels was asking, in terms of that IB diploma, it's really not kicking in until 11th and 12th grade for students.
Thank you.
Sure.
And as you mentioned, there will be a contract, I guess, coming before the Building and Contracts Committee at the next meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
And then part of it would be that this has been reviewed with the curriculum committee and it was supported, or however we vote tonight. That's what we're looking for, right?
That is correct. And just to reiterate what Ms. Schubert said, the program did go through all of the steps around 6002.
Great, okay.
And it'll be coming forward at our June, the board's.
It's the June
Yes, the board's
contracts
June
and board
contracts
meeting.
and
That's correct.
So not
meeting.
this next.
Not this next Tuesday, no.
All right. So I guess I would ask for is there a motion to accept the expansion of the IB program from the? There's a motion to accept. Is there a second? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. So we are supporting the presentation and the expansion of the IB program, and we thank you for the information presented.
Thank you all very
We
much.
appreciate that. For the curriculum committee's consideration, I know we are close to the 6 o'clock hour. We have one more presentation from Melanie Martin and Dr. Wisted on our Naviance program. And this is also, normally I would say we'd love to not honor your time and ask Chair McDaniels if he'd like to bring the meeting to a close, but this is also connected to a contract that we'll be bringing forward. So we'd like to have the opportunity to talk to the committee about that tonight, if that's okay.
I was on Naviance today.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are here today to briefly go over, we do have a contract that's coming up on Naviance. I was going to share that Josie probably was familiar with Naviance. And it's a web-based program that we use for students that are looking and for colleges is a part of what it is, but Ms. Martin is here today to explain to you all the different features in it. We have a current contract with them that is ending at the end of June, and so we went through this school year a process where we collected what requirements were needed. We put a request out for product, and different vendors bid on that. So we went through that whole process. And again, we are selecting Naviance to be brought to the board at the next board meeting. So it's in June, I believe, that the contract's coming up.
Yes, that's the board meeting.
So Ms. Martin.
So I'm going to take us through a presentation that I believe we have.
Up there? Yeah.
Yeah,
there we are.
Great.
Perfect.
That provides a quick overview of Naviance. And so, Ms. Schaefer, if I miss anything, let me know. So the overall functions of Naviance are to provide students with some support with academic planning, career exploration, and the college application process. And those are really hefty tasks that our students begin in middle school and continue throughout high school. So Naviance is a tool that we currently utilize to support them with those 3 areas. Naviance has 3 integrated components. This is a quick shot of the different screens, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of each one of them. There's a student and family view. Students have access to Naviance online at school, but also from home. Parents have their own Naviance accounts, and so they can access information as well. They can view college information, career information, test scores, tasks that students are planning. All of that lives in Naviance, and we're going to take a closer look at much of that as part of this presentation. But this is a student and family view. There's also a school staff view, which allows counselors, administrators, teachers, all of our staff that are Naviance users to learn more about their students, to support their students through this process, to provide academic advising, career counseling, to learn more about their students' interests. So our teachers, counselors, administrators, and other staff have the ability to use the staff view to do that. And then there's also a district view. So on the district level, we have the ability to run reports to learn more about our students, their plans, to make sure that information is going to the right places, to support the creation and implementation of their post-graduation plans. Our district has a success plan that involves many tools, but it involves Naviance in the following ways. So this is a list of the areas where Naviance appears in what we call our scope and sequence as part of the Office of School Counseling. And I'm going to take you through each of those within a little bit more detail. We also have embedded some quotes from real users that have shared with us some information about how Naviance is influential in this process for them. One of our most celebrated uses of Naviance on the middle school level is something called Road Trip Nation. And this is a video collection that is available to students so that they can learn more about the world of work. They're able to search careers by career type. They're able to search by keywords. If they want to learn more about perseverance, they can watch a video from Questlove from the Roots, learning about how he uses perseverance in his work. They can get inspired by a graphic designer who designs skateboards. Students are able to really dig into work in different ways other than just this is the name of a job and this is what they do using the tool Road Trip Nation. And so we see this currently used a lot on the middle school level, but this is also a tool that our parents have access to so they can help encourage students to use it at home as well. We also have our students complete something called the Career Cluster Finder. It's a survey, an inventory that students take. They answer questions about themselves, and it gives them results that are related to career clusters. And those career clusters relate to our Maryland Career Pathways. So it helps students to identify career pathways of interest for them. Additionally, we have students take a career interest profiler, which is another way for them to learn more about careers of interest for them. So there are several touch points around exploring careers that are embedded in Naviance, and we are actively using with students on the middle school and high school level. We also can utilize Naviance to help students to create goals, and not just basic goals, but dynamic goals, as opposed to students writing a goal that says, I want to do better in math. They can write a goal in Naviance and use the question prompts that live in the Naviance to really drill down into, is this a measurable goal? What's the timeline for completion? When are you going to check back in to make sure that you've been successful? And one of the great features is that their counselors can see their goals and help them to track their success with it. Naviance also has a resume builder within the program, so it helps students often to create their first ever resume. So it supports students who are planning on working before college, working during college, and students who might need to utilize the resume tool as part of their college application. So we're able to use the resume builder feature to support our students on a range of post-secondary plans. One of my favorite features in Naviance is Supermatch. It is, in many school counselors' opinion, the best and most powerful college search engine out there, bar none. It stands apart from other ways of searching and learning about colleges because it allows you not just to search by name, not just to search by intended major, but to search by size of college, to search by whether it's a historically black college or university. Does it have Greek life? Does it have Division I sports in the area of interest for you? Does it provide supports to students with disabilities? And you can search on all of those features at the same time to really gain a very specialized very specific and specialized search results. So you can find colleges and universities that are particular to your interests. And one of the most important features of Supermatch is that it allows you to search by your own personal GPA and test scores. So you can find, it helps us as counselors to educate students about whether a school should be classified as a good fit school, a safety school, or a reach school. Students should have all three. So Supermatch helps them to identify schools in which one of those categories they fit into. Naviance also allows students to create a list of colleges that they're applying to, track the due dates, request their transcripts be sent, request their letters of recommendation, and track the process for all of this. It also, on the screen that's showing right now, allows students to hit the button called Compare Me, and it allows them, I see you nodding your head, so you may have used this, it allows the students to see with a color coding system whether the colleges and universities that they're interested in are reach schools, good fit schools, or safety schools. So it helps to make sure that they are representing all of those important areas in their college application plans. And that's a really helpful tool to students that are trying to decide where they should apply. Additionally, Naviance has the feature that allows counselors and teachers to send transcripts and letters of recommendations electronically. Gone are the days for us in this district currently where we are handing students envelopes and trusting that they are mailed on time and safely arriving at their destination, and relying on external sources to be sure that our students' very important information is received on time by the colleges. That whole process is automated in Naviance with the click of a button. Counselors are able to see that those documents that they need sent for their students have been sent and have been received. And they're able to provide reassurance to families that they've closed the loop on this communication in a way that we never have had the ability to do before. It also, within this feature called eDocs, allows counselors to help their students stay on track with their deadlines. Students can see their deadlines, parents can see their deadlines, but so can the counselor. So a deadline is approaching, student hasn't requested their transcripts and letter of recommendation yet. The counselor can see that and call them down and say, are you still interested in this college because the deadline is tomorrow, and support that process. So it allows us to be more proactive in supporting our students. Naviance also has a scholarship search tool that we on the district level can populate. Previously, students knew about the scholarships that their personal counselor knew about. So if a scholarship donor contacted myself as the counselor at a high school, I would share that information with my students, but a neighboring school might not know about that scholarship. This tool eliminates that and creates equity of scholarship information for our district, because on the district level, we populate this list with scholarships so that all of our students have access to that information. Within Naviance, students can search the entire list of district-populated scholarships, but they can also use a tool called Scholarship Match, which shows them specifically the scholarships that they qualify for based on certain demographic information, their GPA, their intended major, gender, race. There are many different qualifiers that Naviance can help students to find a scholarship that might be right for them. To that end, we've seen in the past several years since the inception of our Naviance usage as a county, an increase in college applications. So this slide shows that the first year that we were utilizing Naviance, we had 12,579 college applications. And last year, we were at 27,414. So we've seen a marked increase in the number of students who are applying to colleges. In the years that we've used, we've seen an explosion in student and parent usage. And last year, students, we were able to report over $153 million in scholarship earnings. So we believe that the importance of Naviance is demonstrated in the usage and the applications and also the scholarship earnings information. So that's some background on Naviance and our current implementation of Naviance. I will open it up to any questions that you might have about it.
Go ahead.
So with Naviance, I'm assuming that this fits right in with like the 6-year plans that we have the kids do in middle school.
Before you asked the question, I was going to mention that. Mr. Young, I was going to mention that as board members in the community is aware, we've been working for a few years now on 6-year academic planning for students beginning in middle school. One of our intentions, if we're able to move forward with this contract and this program, is to use this as our way to plan for those 6 years because it is so useful to students. I mean, you heard Josie, I heard her whisper, I'm on it all the time. And as someone who's a father of a senior as well, my son used it and used Supermatch to decide and hone down on the schools to which he would apply based on his GPA and his test scores. And he received full tuition support from all 4 schools that he got into because he knew he had a high chance of success before he applied to those schools, which is not something that I think any of us had the benefit of when we applied. So the plan is, yes, to transition the system and the school-based staff into using Naviance beginning in the middle years so it becomes the platform by which we implement the 6-year academic plan for students.
Okay. I wanted to ask about competitive products to Naviance. What other, you mentioned you considered other products, and then maybe the relative cost. Where does Naviance fit in the price scale?
Yes. So we did go through the RFP process, and there were 2 other products that did complete bids. The product that was closest in features is a product called by a company called Cooter. There was another bid for a company called XAP, which did not have wasn't really aligned with features, but Cooter provides some college search tools. It does allow for parent access and student access. It does allow students to complete some inventories to learn more about their interests. What Cooter, XAP, and no other product to my knowledge provides is the ability for students to request transcripts, letters of recommendation, and have them electronically submitted. So you can research, but you can't actualize, if that makes that's a way of explaining it. So the pricing for Naviance was higher than the other products, but they, when you compare the features, the other companies, the other bidders did not have comparable features.
And would you happen to know what the cost is, you know, when we get this contract in June, what is it going to look like?
So for 5 years, the cost would be 1.954.
Okay.
That's the spending authority that we're putting forth based on what it is right now and knowing that the price may go up over time in those 5 years. Also, the contract is going to be for 5 years with a possible 5-year extension.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I was intrigued by the last slide with college applications. How does that translate to number of students? Because again, I remember applying to 3 schools and then everybody's doing 10. And so is this reflective of people just applying or actually more students applying to college?
I would say that this is reflective of more students applying, and you are completely correct. We do have a range of how many colleges students are applying to. Especially with tools such as the Common Application, which can allow students to apply once to several schools. But when you look at the data from 2013-14, that was fairly recent.
Yes.
So that's still within the window of time when, you know, the generation of more ease of electronic application. So it would be my sense that the increase is indicative of the fact that they have Naviance as a tool to help support that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
You mentioned earlier kind of the student/family view of Naviance. Is it, with the family view, is it a case that a parent can log in and if they have multiple children, they will see all of their kids, you know, a middle school or a high schooler, they'll see everything, or will they need multiple accounts?
They would need multiple accounts in order to view their, because the way Naviance works is that a parent is able to log in and view the parent or family view of their child's information. So they would be logging in and viewing each child one child at a time.
Another cool thing about Naviance that I don't think like other programs have is that it connects with your Common Application. So you waive your FERPA on Naviance, so it automatically connects with your counselors and all your transcripts, so it automatically goes on to Common App and like all this other like personal information about yourself, which made it a lot easier to do. Like I had to apply with the Coalition application as well, and that was like a headache, but it was easier on Common App because it works with your Naviance. And it also does this thing, and that's why I'm on Naviance all the time. If you click on the school that you applied to, it shows how many kids at your school apply, and it also shows who didn't get in and who did get in. So I'll like look at it and I'll be like, where am I? And it also has like a scale of like SAT scores, old and new, from kids that go to your school. So it would have all the Pikesville's like SAT scores, and it would have like who got in where, and like it's like a GPA, it's like here on like this coordinate, and then SATs here, and it would put like dots and stuff on if like and then like a check mark if like a student did get in, and then it shows where your score is, so you can see like, oh, you're in a lot of green check marks, like you have a higher chance of getting in. So that's why I was on it all the time. Like first quarter through third quarter, I was on it multiple times a day. I'm not saying it's in my nightmares, but it is. But like, it's like really good for college stuff. Like I'm on all the time. But I had another question. Well, I had a question. Is that like there are some like things that you showed that people can do like a lot of with the career tab, and I guess like at my school we like never really went into the career tab. Like I think my freshman year we took a survey once, and then that was kind of it. Like how do you like recommend like counselors like come in more to like classes to make sure they're using all this stuff. Because there are some stuff like that you're in your presentation, I was like, you can do that? Like, cause
I saw you raise an eyebrow at the resume builder
Yeah, 'cause I
one.
knew-
Like, you weren't sure that you knew you could do that?
I knew like they said something about it, but like I don't think we ever had like a walkthrough of how to do it. Oh, also another cool thing is you can see if your teacher opened your transcript. Recommendation request, and so like it says it's in process, and you can go to your teacher like, when are you gonna upload it? Which is cool. But so I was like
I'm
wondering.
sure you're doing that with the utmost appreciation for their willingness to write your recommendation. But thank you also for all of that information that was in my notes about the fact that you can connect to Common App that I did not mention. But to your point about increasing the use of Naviance, related to what Dr. Adams brought up, it is our hope that tying the 6-year plan process more closely with Naviance is going to provide some support with that. Our scope and sequence is continuing to grow to provide more social emotional learning, but also more utilization of what we already do have access to in Naviance. So hopefully we're going to see more use of those really rich and important tools. Some of them are used individually. So there are times when it could be that a counselor pulls a student for an individual session and they utilize some elements of Naviance, but there are many of the elements of Naviance that are to be delivered during a classroom lesson. So we would like to see some increase in that. And if I can speak to one thing that you mentioned, you were mentioning the fact that you can view graphs of to help you to compare the admissions rates for your school. When you said you can see who got in.
Well, you didn't say like the name.
Not
it's
the
like,
name. Yes.
It's like it's no, it's not a name. It's not a name.
That what you can see is the GPA on a scattergram. So you can see, students that are approximately this GPA range were more likely to get in to this school, and particularly at your high school. That's a useful tool that many students, parents, and counselors use without student names.
Yeah, no names. It's like a little silhouette of like a person. But you don't know who it is.
So in the whole description, it seems like Naviance has a rich set of features, and listening to Josie, all of those may not have been used to their full capacity, and with integrating the 6-year plan into it, and also with the new proposed budget as far as getting counselors who are helping with graduation. The assumption is that there will probably be a significant amount of professional development for the counselors to be able to know and understand and use these features to assist students.
So our counselors, when we initially brought on Naviance, received extensive training, and we do provide annual training on our current use of Naviance. We provided training on all of the features that were demonstrated here today, but it is our intention that with an increase in utilization of Naviance in connection with the 6-year plan, that we would be providing professional learning around that specifically. Looking towards the future, in the event that we were adding specialized support for in the form of college counseling, we would be developing professional learning specific to that role, and it would heavily connect to the tasks that you saw in this presentation. So that would be a whole new level of professional learning that we would be hoping to deliver to our new staff.
That certainly sounds like a very powerful tool, but being on the Building and Contracts Committee, I'm going to anticipate that a lot of the same information that you presented, they're going to want to hear.
Sure.
So, we'll just have to be prepared for that. But it is sounds like a very good tool, pal.
I'll bring my testimony.
There you go. You want to make a motion about accepting this proposal?
So moved.
Okay. How about you? All right. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And so we are going to support it from a curriculum perspective, and we'll have to probably have a very similar discussion with building and contracts in a couple weeks then.
We'll be sure to bring Miss Martin with us,
Absolutely.
since she knows all the ins and outs of it.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right.
And that was our last agenda item, Mr. McDaniels.
Well, thank you very much. I guess if anything further from any of our other members, if not.
This is my last meeting.
Oh, yeah, well.
It's your last curriculum meeting.
Yay. Well, you've been a very powerful member of our committee, and we're going to miss you very much. So we'll see. All right. I guess we're adjourned then, Dr. Adams. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.